Hi, friends, family, and anyone else who's in here watching us for the first time. This is Holly and Lauren, and this is Breakthrough to Best Self. Welcome. As I said, my name is Holly, and I'm located just south of Atlanta, Georgia. I am a FARA certified advocate, which means food addiction recovery advocate, along with a hypnotherapist and sound and vibrational therapist. And Lauren?
Hey guys, I'm Lauren-Aaliyah. I'm in Durban, South Africa. I'm also forest certified. With Holly, we work together in a global community supporting people around the world who are recovering from food addiction. But I'm also an NLP practitioner at neurolinguistics programming, as well as a keto coach. And today we have another exciting episode of Breakthrough to Best Self. Holly, what are we talking about with the good folks today?
Well, as some of you may have just stumbled across this video, you may not have heard some of our previous recordings, but we are holistic wellness bloggers. We have a passion for holistic wellness. And today, the subject matter is, how do we measure progress in our wellness journey? Or as Lauren would say, progress. You're going to hear it both ways today.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
progress, wherever you are, however you say it, you all welcome here. All accents welcome here,
right? Yes.
including the 144 accents that like just live in my head and may come out as I speak. But that's a story for another day. Yes, Miles, measuring progress, measuring progress. It's so interesting, that one, isn't it? For me, for so many years, wellness, or when I even defined wellness or good health, it was so tied into an external view of myself, a body
Oh, yeah.
image. And so because the standard was a particular standard of beauty or fitness, progress for me was, well, how are you doing on that front? Like, how's the weight loss journey going? How's the diet going? How's the gym membership going? And it was
Yeah.
very limited in terms of the way that I measured my progress. And so, coming into the field that you and I have studied in, and the different modalities we've worked on, as well as our own self-development, we've obviously grown in our understanding of holistic
Very
wellness.
much.
And we shared in our introductory video certainly the different aspects of wellness and health, knowing that it goes beyond the physical. And in fact, we're taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And so now, measuring progress is about looking at, for me, certainly looking at that matrix, if you will, and looking at different areas of my life, and wondering how I'm doing in each one of those. How about you, Halls? Has your view of, or your measure of progress, has it changed over the years as well?
Maybe just, maybe just
Just a
now.
little.
If we're measuring, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's been a tremendous change, and it's one that's brought me peace. Now, for me, measuring it for me was, I literally was measuring it. I was measuring progress on scale. I was measuring it with the way my body looked. And also, you could take tape measures. You do mathematical equations. There was numbers always
Yeah.
associated with if I was doing well or if I was not.
Mm.
And it's just not that way anymore.
Yeah.
Now I can measure it with, how are my relationships? Do I lay down boundaries? Do I have, am I still a people pleaser, which I am proud to say, no, not anymore. Something like that, that's been with me my entire life, that caused me stress and caused me to go back to the food. Oops, didn't know that was connected. Um, to be able to not have that show up in my life anymore has
Mm.
brought me peace of mind and peace with the food, which again, I did not know that those two were connected.
Yeah. peace of mind in the food. Maybe let's take it category at a time, if we will, right? So we spoke in a previous video about the different aspects of holistic wellness. And so let's just go with physical, because that's kind of where it kind of starts for most people. You know, right now, if you think about your yardstick for physical well-being, what are you looking for now if you are to, you know, answer the question, like, are you making progress or are you satisfied with your progress? What is it that you're actually looking at now when it comes to your physical well-being?
Well, first of all, I, like many people across the planet, have struggled with autoimmune. So I personally have an autoimmune condition that I have had diagnosed since my 40s, experienced since my 30s, and I'm now in my 50s. I have felt better in my 50s than I ever felt in my 30s and 40s. No flare-ups. That's huge. And when I look at my numbers, when I do the blood work and I look at my numbers, here we go back to numbers, but in this way, what I am being shown is that that has been put in remission, so to speak. It's not completely gone, but it's been put into remission. I'm so grateful for that experience of that sort of progress. My health, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Holly, what do you accredit that to? Being able to get your autoimmune condition under control and get the numbers under control. What are you attributing that to? How did you achieve that?
You know, a lot of people would say that it was strictly due to my change in my food plan. So I'm very, my food is very clean. And yes, I would say that's definitely a contributing factor, but I would say it's not the only contributing factor. I would also like to say that the other aspects that we're going to unpack, the mental and emotional, have also contributed, because the more I learn about stress, the more I learn that stress physically attacks. It's not an attack. It's just a reaction in our body to stress. So physically, lowering my stress levels and working on my state of calm, I believe, has also helped with my physical symptoms of my autoimmune condition.
Right. So back to that kind of holistic approach to, you know, even remission that we can experience. So for me, the yardstick, I guess, for physical, as I said, used to be the shape and size of my body would be the physical measure, you know, the numbers on the scale. But like you, I definitely do my share of blood work at least once a year. There are, you know, just a few marker tests that I do, particularly my metabolic markers, as somebody who has struggled with metabolic syndrome and, you know, for the last few decades has struggled with various aspects related to insulin resistance and the consequences. There are a few markers that I keep an eye on every year. So certainly physically, progress looks like those are well managed. And physically, progress looks like how well does my body feel every day? And that goes to, do I feel well rested? Do I feel calm in my body, like in my physical body? Do I feel calm and well rested? How much movement am I getting? How much rest am I getting? So it's a combination of those. And, you know, we spoke about stress. You mentioned stress. It contributes to my physical well-being. You know, we're going to talk about, you know, mental and emotional, but we don't talk about these things in compartments because they are also interconnected. Although I'm asking us to kind of identify physical yardstick, we'll probably say these things as we come across, you know, the emotional and mental side. So that's just a few of the ways that I now look at myself physically, in terms of my, my physical energy levels, my wellness, my fitness, my health markers. That's what I'm looking at when I'm looking at, physical progress these days. So let's talk about mental health. How do you track your mental progress?
Yeah, so maybe that one is there's a little bit more discovery going inside to see where that is. But what I can say is, for me, I used to be a very big critic inside this place. And it was all about me. I wasn't doing something well enough, good enough, I wasn't enough. Um, you name it. And so it took some time. It took some time, but I decided that I was going to go on a journey to mental wellness. And again, it's a holistic picture because the food does play a piece in it. And
Yeah.
I say that because when I'm in the food, when I'm in sugar and not just carbs, but the carbs that kick our butts. Okay, excuse my language. Um, my brain does not function properly.
Mm.
It's brain fog. I do not have the awareness. And then you mentioned with the physical that I would call it exhaustion. And the exhaustion was physical, but it was also mental exhaustion. And by working on the food as part of the equation, but also giving myself stepping back a little bit. We talk about the power of the pause. I know that's going to be a different episode, but taking a step back and observing what's going on mentally with myself has given me enough space to quiet that negative voice. And the I know we're going to get into the emotional in a moment, and this is how it's all holistically, it's all together, because the emotional has helped with the mental. The physical, the food, what I'm putting in my body, movement, sleep, all of that helps the mental, along with dealing with the emotional and recognizing the thoughts and the voices that are going off in here and addressing them as they do.
Yeah.
And
So you
that has been a
measuring,
game changer, I have to say.
right. So you measure your progress by how much your self-talk has improved. That's
Yes.
how you're measuring mental progress for yourself these days,
What
is
about
just
you?
how that well, I think, yeah, in addition to that, for sure, that's a part of what when I think about my mental health, um, my mental progress that I've made, definitely cognitive function is up there. And like you said, when I was, years and years in sugar and processed food, I was cognitively impaired for sure. Um, I now measure my mental progress just by the fact that I have the ability to learn and a desire to learn, and that my brain still wants to learn, and it takes in so much new information every day. That in my 50s, I was able to go off and qualify as a neurolinguistics programming practitioner. In my late 40s, I became a keto coach. And I didn't think I'd be still studying at that part of my life. I thought I was done with my studies in my 20s. And then for a long time, I didn't learn anything new. I didn't feel like I learned anything new. Learning was difficult for very many years, that I was in the food and struggling with, metabolic illness as a result of eating really toxic food for decades. So definitely my cognitive function, my learning ability is a very direct measure of my mental progress. But then my mental health, just broadly speaking, my mental health, where I was somebody who struggled with chronic anxiety and had, often panic attacks that needed to be medicated. That's a direct mental health issue that I struggled with. And my progress is that, I haven't needed medication for panic attacks and anxiety in, almost a decade.
I want to raise my hand and say, me too, with the anxiety. I can't
Mhm.
believe I didn't think of it. But isn't it
Yeah.
interesting moving away from that space that I had a hard time remembering that until you said that.
Yeah, it feels like so long ago. So I definitely know that I've made progress as far as that goes. And then just those mental patterns you mentioned, thought and in sort of inner dialogue and inner thought, and definitely my mental patterns, just like the programs I run, the language, the internal dialogue, the language I use for others, that has changed. And it's been really beneficial to my mental progress because the way I think about things, the way I catch myself with untrue beliefs or thoughts now, the way I reframe things in the moment. So that all speaks of mental progress that I've made and what I measure now. You know, my mental well-being comes from I'm no longer swinging for the fences where I used to be either really, really high, mentally high or mentally low.
Yep.
Um, and there was no middle ground. You know, it was either I'm extremely excited or I'm extremely depressed. I'm very happy or I'm very sad. There was I didn't spend a lot of time just in that mental stability. So that's how I measure my mental well-being is just being mentally stable and cognitively sound and
Of course.
learning and taking in information around me and having a growth mindset. So that's the mental. And, I know we don't have a lot of time left. So maybe with the few minutes we have left, we can tie it up, Halls, on just bringing the emotions. And if you want to, even just your spirituality into this conversation of how are we measuring progress in our well being these days?
Absolutely. The emotional piece, big piece, big piece, because that was something that I had not really explored until I was ready. The food, the food and the working on being calm in all circumstances was the first towards the journey of emotional processing, but I wasn't ready right away. Once I started working on my emotions, because I stuffed them down for years with the food. And, I thought that that was making them go away, but no, they were just lodged inside of me, which can bring along being unwell. It can contribute to the physical and the mental. So here we go back into the holistic picture again, where the dealing with the emotions helps all the rest of us. And so little by little, I became willing to examine and to even be able to name what an emotion was. At first it was all anger. I'm angry. I'm just angry. Well, actually, underneath, I'm hurt. I'm afraid. I'm nervous. There's a lot of different emotions out there. So even identifying what am I feeling, asking myself, what am I feeling? What am I really feeling? What's underneath that? And then using practical skills and exercises to work through those pieces has been another game changer on the path to wellness. And I just will throw out, I'm going to just combine the two. The spiritual came from these other pieces. For me, it was a reverse sort of finding in that when my mind was clear, when my emotions were being handled and understood, when my food was in a better place, all of a sudden things opened up for me to really get deep and down with this whole spiritual journey, which has been just amazing. And I believe that the spiritual part of the journey is also contributing to my overall holistic wellness pathway. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's how it showed up for me. But Lauren, I know your pathway was a little different, and I think it's important to highlight that because not everybody is going to have the same path as I have had or the same one that you've had. And there may be
Yeah.
something in the middle that's neither one of the paths that you and I've had, in when I'm talking about the order in which things showed up. So what
Yeah,
was that
sure.
like for you?
Sure. Yeah, well, I'll go straight to how am I measuring progress in these areas, and that will maybe give some light to what it was. So yes, for me, the spiritual aspect was certainly there even before I got my physical well-being. The spiritual piece for me was something I worked on a lot earlier, and so spiritual progress. How do I measure? How do I measure progress in spirituality or in spiritual growth and well-being? It's one of the hard ones to kind of define, if I'm honest. It's how do you say all is well with my soul and give a description to that? But that's what it feels like. It feels like the ultimate peace. If I'm at peace, my soul is well, my spirit is well. Progress for me is making time for my spiritual practices every day. That's progress for me. And not just time in, just the amount of time, but the quality of time. The quality of my spiritual practices is a way that I measure progress. And personally, so in the past, it would be a standard of measurement by, somebody else's measure. And a very specific structure of what that looks like, and so for me, yes, I definitely subscribe to a framework. I follow a framework of religious practices. That's what works for me in my spiritual faith. But within that framework, I'm definitely more in tune now than I've ever been of my own personal journey and my personal path. So that's, spirituality, and is a very important part of who I am. And so progress for me is that it becomes the cornerstone of everything else. And when it's not, for me, that's not progress. For me personally, if I'm not leading in all that I do, where there's this connection with my spirit, my intuition, my guidance, my own higher beliefs, then it doesn't really make that much sense to me. Then the physical and the mental and the emotional just are meaningless to me. And so for some people that may be the case, for others not. And like you said, we all on our own path, and that's what's so wonderful about the show that you and I put together, this particular vlogging channel, is that we do come from different worlds and we have very different perspectives, but look how it all comes together and contributes to this journey that we're on, this quest for holistic wellness. And of course, my emotional progress is very similar to mental, is whether am I stable? Am I emotionally stable? I used to also be swinging for the fences on my emotions, feeling one way or another, without really being able to name it. As you said, being able to name my emotions is progress. And then, of course, all the wonderful tools that, you and I in particular share, where we've learned this as part of our FARA training with Dr. John Ifland, our food addiction recovery advocate training, included a huge portion of our training in understanding addiction and addiction recovery was how do we process big emotions. And of course, those tools have just come right back in, and I measure my progress in emotional well-being with how well am I processing my emotions on a day-to-day basis, rather than sitting with an emotion, for 3 or 4 days like I used to. I can check in with myself every day. So a very different way of looking at well-being, a far cry from numbers on a scale, the size of my clothes, and I'm so happy for it. Holly, any closing words that you have on the topic of, just measuring progress in holistic wellness?
Yes, and Lauren, you know me, and hopefully you guys out there are getting to know me. I always go back to pacing. I always go back to pacing. You are doing enough. You are enough. Your pace is perfect for you. My pace is perfect for me. Lauren's pace is perfect for her. And it's okay to take time. It's okay to explore when you're ready. Lauren and I didn't come to these ideas overnight. It's been a progression of having that curiosity, being lifelong learners and exploring more ideas and then implementing them. So your pace is perfect for you. And yeah, you are making progress. We're all making progress. We're just showing up to life and finding the next right step for ourselves. And that always leads to progress. So Lauren, what are your departing words?
Yeah, thanks for that, Holly. I think just that perspective that we are all showing up and we're doing the best we can where we're at. Um, Holly and I, through this channel, are hoping that if anybody has a narrower view of progress like we had and is living with the guilt and shame because in one area of your life it doesn't feel like progress, we're hoping that through this discussion you'll be able to just broaden your perspective on how much you are achieving in your life and are able to give yourself the credit for the progress you're making in all aspects of your life and knowing that you are doing enough and that you are enough. So thank you for being with us on another wonderful journey through Breakthrough to Best Self. And please, if you love the content, you enjoy the content, or you're just curious to know what else is coming, please do subscribe to this channel and do hit that notifications bell so that you can be notified when we upload a new video. So thank you for being with us, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.
See you there. Thanks.